Our next guest tunes in from a small island just outside Vancouver. In her first life, Marian Bantjes pursued the career of a traditional graphic designer. But at some point, she backed out and worked on as a graphic artist. Marian's work can be described as playful, surprising, and ornamental. She loves lettering, patterns, and certainly details. Hello, Marian. Welcome to the show.
My name is Marian Bantjes. If you've heard of me, you probably know my work with custom lettering and ornament. If you haven't heard of me, you may recognize some of my work. Or not. I tell people now, not jokingly, that I am a has-been. They usually laugh. Then they try to comfort me by saying they're sure it's not true, or that things may change. But I'm kind of okay with it, being a has-been, because I'm in exceptionally good company. And I recognize what a great and lucky thing it is to have had the career I've had, and the popularity and influence and praise that I've enjoyed. I don't intend to eulogize myself. I'm still here and still making. But the evolution of my work takes me further and further away from my years of popularity. When I was young, I started as an artist. I am one of the ones who liked to draw. In my late teens, I stumbled, by accident, into the world of typography. Book typography. plain old rule-bound book typography. In that world, there is good typography and there is bad typography, and I learned the difference. In my late 20s, I returned to art, painting, and printmaking with an interest in patterns. At 30, I started a design firm, typography plus image. At 40, I merged the two, treating typography as image. The rules of design, visual structure, grids, and alignment interested me. The rules of typography did not. My interest in patterns returned, and a strong emphasis on ornament. At a time when ornament was still considered anathema to design, I began to experiment with it. I looked at old forms of ornamented type and did my best to make them new. I interrupted flow. I used geometry in place of the organic. I mixed pixels with black letter, drew lace of hot rods, and combined extreme fats with super thins. I think when I started out, I had a chip on my shoulder about this idea of pure design, in the modernist sense, and that ornament was seen to have no place in the rational, where white space is valued above all. And I set out to prove that the filling or embroidering of white space could add to design rather than detract. That there is an emotional connection to ornament that is both useful and desirable. And given the response to my work, I believe I proved myself right. When people who I thought would hate my work responded positively, I knew I was on to something interesting and important. So, one of my philosophies of design is that ornament or decoration is not frivolous or without value. I think that a well-designed ornamented page can be as beautiful or as impactful as a well-designed spare one. Either, done well, have the ability to take the breath away. But note that I say done well. This can be hard to qualify and can come down to a matter of taste. I think about taste a lot and am often uncertain which side of the dividing line my work falls. It's another of the things that I play with consciously, creeping up to the line between good taste and bad and stepping over it. How far can you go? What do you lose if you go too far? What do you lose if you come back? I believe strongly in craft, that a high level of craft is what can elevate the good from the bad. This applies to typography, quality of line, execution, and production, but it doesn't mean conformity to classical norms. It's often in the details, what you don't immediately notice but intuit. This is what makes great modernist design so stunning compared to banal imitations. The attention to balance and form. These are some of the things I try to take with me across that line between good and bad taste. I'm also a huge fan of juxtaposition, of mixing old and new, rigid and fluid, hard and soft. What happens if you give Joseph Müller-Brockmann kittens? I'm always asking the viewer to look closer, look longer. I'm especially happy when I can provide layered meaning or the revelation of things not immediately apparent. I think this is why I often play with legibility. While, on the one hand, I maintain that people are far better at recognizing odd letter forms in context than most people give them credit for, on the other hand, I like pushing people to puzzle things out and be rewarded when the surprise is revealed. This is dependent, of course, on the nature of the reveal. Nobody wants to spend time on something only to be slapped in the face with the stupidity of a sales pitch. So it can be difficult to find the right project for this kind of work. I do believe that after the modernist purge of ornament as a valid design form, an entire vocabulary of ornament was lost. When I started out with this work, I really did hope to spearhead a true resurrection of ornament as a discipline. In my constant attempt to not just revive, but transform ornament into something new, I hoped that others would take the idea and run with it. To my dismay, what I started as a curious journey quickly became a thoughtless fad. And within a few years, the design landscape was overrun with horrible pastiche, often barfed up by programs and plugins that allowed people to brush random squiggles and swirls across a page. Like Frankenstein, I felt I had created a monster. There were some inroads, some serious inquiry, and some interesting results, particularly from the realm of coding. And there are a few designers today who have continued to carry that torch and continue to be successful today, some of whom I admire greatly, although not without a tinge of jealousy. I helped to start something, but I was unable to finish it.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
That's what's going to be on the box.
So
This game
nice.
brings the best out of all of us. You buy a phone.
It's like playing cards, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny as hell.
In the beginning, clients were so amazed and surprised by my work that the relationship was easy. But increasingly, they started asking me to recreate things I'd done before, or worse, ask me to imitate others. I moved away from ornamented lettering to more pure compositions of fancified modernism. When I increased my experiments in modular systems and patterns, I had the ego and the naivete to think that clients and fans would follow me into my design laboratory. I was wrong. What I didn't understand at the time was that it was not about me. It was about the work. Designers and clients had connected with a certain phase of my work, and in doing so elevated me into a brief period of design stardom. But when I moved on, they didn't. It took me a number of years to understand and accept that. When I wrote my first book, I Wonder, which was published in 2010, I envisioned a book like a medieval manuscript, with a planned symbiosis between the text and the image. While the visuals are intricate, sometimes beautiful, and sometimes jarring, their work is not simply that of aesthetic satisfaction. In each of the essays I wrote for the book, the unique design material is used to expand upon, illustrate, and mimic the conceptual work happening in the text it accompanies. The design functions in support of the text and vice versa. In the same way that illuminated manuscripts often contain bizarre and hilarious marginalia that interacts with the text, both figuratively and literally. At times the visuals support the text, and at times they contradict it. There is a conversation between the two. I think this is what I've been trying to do with my work all along, although it's not always easy or even possible with commercial clients.
3, 4, 5, boom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it.
I did a lot of work for magazines and publications, supplying only fancy typography in the way of headlines or titles. But seeing my work slapped onto pages or awkwardly fit into design templates was jarring and unsatisfying, irritating even. For me, it's critical that these things be integrated. That, as in I wonder, there is an interplay between the display typography and the text. One is not slave to the other. And most designers were unable to understand this or implement it. So I had painted myself into a corner. I had eschewed standard design work for typographic hybrid art in the service of message, only to discover that what I had hoped to explore into infinity had become a disposable style, and that I was now being asked to provide style to designers far less skilled than I was at creating a unified whole. I had a creative reprieve in 2011 or 2012 when the illustration magazine Varoom hired me to do a center spread for each issue. I was paid very little and given complete freedom to create a piece based only on the theme of the issue. Some of my favorite and most interesting work was done for Varoom. It was unfortunate it was printed on newsprint, but the process was revolutionary to me. It freed my thinking from design and from typography in a new way. At around the same time, I was working on a monograph of my work for Thames and Hudson called Pretty Pictures. I wrote it and designed it in a continual process, laying out pages bound only by chronology and the determination to include everything, the good and the bad. Each spread was designed like a poster, and the typography was book typography. Excellent. It was published in 2013 as a 2.72 kilogram tome, a doorstop to punctuate the height of my career. At some point, or all along, we turn to the self-directed project. Self-directed project is what designers call art because they're afraid of the word art. Actually, that's not true about the project being art. Designers being afraid of the word art is true. But the self-directed project is sometimes art and sometimes a form of communication that is important or interesting to the designer. So I've been there too. But the problem with working with words is knowing what to say. The fewer the words, the harder it is. I can write an essay. Oh yes, I can write essays and screeds on a whole variety of subjects. I can even write short fiction. But whenever I've attempted to make pieces of art that has words, so that the words form the art, so that the art is the words, I get all tangled up in the words. I have no interest in the banal. Messages of banality include fancy designs of words like typography, or typography rocks, or less is more, or fuck you, or, God forbid, the alphabet. Then there is the obvious and banal, like pretty, or ornamented, or more is more. Furthermore, there is the danger of sentiment. Sentiment, by the way, is the absolute gateway to kitsch. Words like love, I love you, you're beautiful, togetherness. That list goes on and on. There is a very clear danger in unintentionally making inspirational posters, and that is a line into bad taste that I do not wish to cross. Words like respect and equality, and worse, the truth will set you free, or gag, carpe diem. So I don't make word art. I have turned instead to visual art. I have returned to the image. I've never liked words on art anyway. Words direct. They make messages concrete. Perhaps in the end, this is the difference between design and art. Design has a message, a specific message that needs to be communicated. Whereas art has ambiguity. It may have a message, but it's open to interpretation. It doesn't tell you anything. It makes you look and think and form your own words. So I'm working with images. I make sticker paintings, which have echoes of pattern and some structure, a bit of story, and they're made from pre-existing stickers and shiny tape. Sometimes there's a word or two, but the words aren't the focus, and they're somewhat hidden. I'm also working with images of vases, of things that we keep, what we value. These are old themes for me. I'm painting and working by hand. I hardly touch the computer anymore. There is a beautiful peace and contemplation to working with my hands, as well as control. The connection from mind to hand is direct, without interference. Everything becomes more intuitive and natural when there's no interface between what I'm thinking and doing. I'm full of doubt about what I make, but I try to just get over it and make it. I don't know if it's good. Kurt Vonnegut said that being good at a thing is not the point of doing a thing, that we should do lots of things, even if badly. He said, and I agree, that doing things makes us more rounded and more interesting. Back when I first started making type as image, and when I first started becoming popular for that work, I made a conscious decision that I could either be the girl who makes a certain style of type and be hired for that, or I could continue to change and experiment and push it further. I chose the latter course, which is why I'm a has-been today. But I'm glad I made that decision, and I know my work is better than it has ever been, whether anyone sees it or not.
Ooh,
And suddenly, we gave them cilantro, and you should see it was the funny thing you did. We're very piggy.
Who's lovely? Who's lovely? Who's lovely?
Well, Lula's looking at me. She's giving me that "where have you been all my life" look.
Maybe I should get a bunny.
Can you look at her neck?
Oh, you're so dark.
It's all over Debbie's
So
sweater.
dark.
And
Are you taking a movie?
Yeah.
Are you getting this like serious like nose
Oh,
action?
don't tell them that. I can tell them that.
Come on, Marian's got you on film here. Greta, let's go.
Greta. I want to.
We were gonna name him. What were we gonna name him, Pete?
Seymour and Flopsy.
I suggested, we thought we were going to do 2 boys, and I suggested 2 old Jewish man names, like Seymour and, would you get off my sweater? That's
And
not
Milton.
food. And Milton. Seymour and Milton. And then Fiona decided it'd be funnier to give one of them an old man name and one of them a funny name. Yeah. Like Seymour and Flops.
Hey.
So I said that to Paula, and she said, that's good, because we kind of are Seymour and Flops. Fiona loves the name Seymour.
You know, the black started to scrape off and reveal the title. And the nice thing about that was that, you know, everyone's copy was different. It was, and yet I'd start to see these online and they look amazing, but I didn't do them. That's the killer. I think these look great.